Senator Rand Paul went on Fox News, and he was asked about Lindsey Graham's foreign policy criticism of him. Here's his response.
Lindsey Graham said this about your worldview. Generally speaking, you have done more wrong than right. John McCain says you don't understand. You display this kind of naivete since you came to the Senate. What's going on there?
This comes from a group of people who've been wrong about every foreign policy issue over the last 2 decades. I'll give you a couple of examples where they support the president's foreign policy and I don't. They supported Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. They supported President Obama's bombing of Assad. They also support President Obama's foreign aid to countries that hate us. So if there's anyone who is the most opposed to President Obama's foreign policy, it's me. And these people who call loudest to criticize me are great proponents of President Obama's foreign policy. They just want to do it 10 times over. But I'm the only one actually standing up and saying the war in Libya was a mistake. The bombing of Assad would make ISIS stronger. The arms to the Islamic rebels would make ISIS stronger. So I'm really the one standing up to President Obama, and these people are essentially the lapdogs for President Obama, and I think they're sensitive about that.
Well, how will you define yourself? I mean, you're an interventionist or an isolationist? You will be asked that question repeatedly, and you will say what?
I'm a Reagan Republican. I believe in a strong national defense. I believe in peace through strength. I think that intervention's not always the answer, and that some interventions lead to unintended consequences. So, for example, Hillary's war in Libya has made Libya less stable, more chaotic, and has allowed the rise of radical Islam. So we are more at risk after that war. It was a mistake for that war to occur and for the U.S. to be involved with toppling Gaddafi. Realize that these people who criticize me were for giving arms to Gaddafi last year or the year before they were for toppling Gaddafi. So they're on the both sides of so many wars. Some of these critics are for bombing both sides of the Syrian war. Their foreign policy is so disjointed, confusing, and chaotic that really people need to re-examine those who want to be involved in every war.
That was brilliant. You basically just watched a response that Bernie Sanders would give. He sounded like me right there. Everything he said there was like me. But that's what's so frustrating about Rand Paul. You heard him give a perfect answer right there. But, well, actually, the Reagan part was gross. Are you an interventionist or an isolationist? Because those are the only two options, by the way. That's it. He's like, I'm a Reagan Republican. So that was the only part. Yeah, that doesn't sound like me, and that doesn't sound like Bernie Sanders. Correction. But get rid of that part, and everything sounds good. But the problem with Rand Paul is that this is the same asshole that a few weeks ago proposed a $190 billion increase to the defense budget. So you're saying all the right things, your talkie is on point, your message is good, your rhetoric is good, but your policy behind the scenes has been more hawkish. And the reason you did that is obvious. It's for political reasons. So that now you know that in the Republican debates, when you're on stage with a bunch of hawk idiots talking to an idiot audience, you get to say, no, I'm not anti-war. I'm just in favor of the smarter wars. I'm pro having a strong defense. I just want to use our defense the right way. See, I propose a $190 billion increase in defense spending, more than any of these other guys did, so in a way, I'm actually a bigger hawk than they are. See, he's playing both sides here. And the argument they would make is, well, we're just being pragmatic politically, and we're doing what we need to do to get elected. But here's how I would refer to that: being a sellout and being two-faced. And you're being a punk. You're saying, I really don't care about the principles. I'm not like my dad where I actually care about the issues themselves. I'm just saying what I got to say and doing what I got to do to get elected. And sometimes when I make good arguments, it's just because right now it's convenient for me to fend off attacks from bigger idiots like Mistress Lindsey Graham and John McCain, who always go out at night and hold each other's hands. Okay, I'll digress from that. But his point on Libya, totally true. You know, Obama, Clinton, they supported Libya. John McCain, Lindsey Graham, they supported intervention in Libya. I didn't. How'd that work out? Now, remember, he's not saying Gaddafi's a good guy, nor am I, but I'm just saying we shouldn't have gotten involved because it had nothing to fucking do with us. I think that's the right position. I think Rand Paul is right about that. In Syria, he's right. These Lindsey Graham and John McCain were arguing to bomb Assad a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and then a year after that, all of a sudden they're arguing to go into Syria and bomb the people who are fighting Assad. So you just flip sides in the war, without, acting like it wasn't a big deal. That's a huge deal. You just switched sides in a war. That's a huge deal. And that's why Rand Paul said these are guys who wanted to bomb both sides in Syria. Why would you do that? You just want to breed more hatred against the United States of America. And let's face it, you guys really care deeply about your defense contractor butt buddies, right? They give you a lot of money for your campaign, so you're looking out for them and you're making sure they get theirs, regardless of the cost to the American people and regardless of the cost to our military. You don't give a shit about small government or deficits, and you don't give a shit about the health and security of our troops because you want to send them everywhere immediately. These guys have them in a war they don't like. And then, again, I want to bring this up one more time because I think it's hilarious and it shows you something about how Fox News operates. Fucking bobblehead Ken doll host there was like, how would you describe your foreign policy? Are you an interventionist or an isolationist? As if those are really the only two options. Either you're in favor of every intervention ever, and you're an interventionist and a neocon, or you're an isolationist. Which, by the way, notice that whenever the term isolationist is always used with a negative connotation nowadays. It's always used as a pejorative. You're an isolationist. You don't want to deal with anybody ever. You want to, lock yourself in a box and not open it and starve to death here and not partake in the world and be a leader. But no, isolationism is a way of smearing the position that the American people agree with, which is actually non-interventionism. The difference between isolationism and non-interventionism is probably just the perception of it, right? Well, also, isolationism has some economic consequences associated with it as well, and it also strikes of, being unwilling under any circumstance to not, get out of isolation, whereas non-interventionism is just for foreign policy, and it's the policy of we're only going to fuck with other people if they fuck with us first. We're only going to do self-defense. So the American people largely agree more on that end of the spectrum, non-interventionism. But the way they frame it on Fox, are you a strong American hero who believes in interventionism to save the world? Or are you an evil isolationist who's scared of everybody and you're a bitch and you're not a leader? You could be somewhere in the middle. You can be with the American people on the side of non-interventionism where you only want to fight absolutely necessary wars. But on Fox News, that's blasphemy. You have to be in favor of every war or you're a weak bitch.